All right, everybody, welcome back. We're continuing with our shadow work. Of course, this is the book that we're using, and we're going to look at page 14 and 15 right now. We're going to go over how to spot your shadow self. So this is 5 ways that you can spot your shadow. The first way to spot your shadow when you're starting to do shadow work is noticing your triggers. So one of the easiest ways to spot a trigger is when you notice a disproportionate emotional response to something. So we all get annoyed or frustrated by people, places, things. But when you look back when someone was rude to you or somebody cut you off in traffic, and from like 1 to 10, the reaction should have been a 1, 2, or a 3, and you kind of blew up and you had like a 7, an 8, or a 9 reaction. So you want to watch for those disproportionate reactions. That is very likely your shadow in your subconscious mind got triggered. It'll also feel like you're reacting automatically because when you're your best self, you don't just blow up on people, right? So when you get triggered in your subconscious mind, it overrides everything else and it's almost like you're not in control for a second because, spoiler alert, you're not. A good way to spot your triggers, usually after the fact, is to take a step back and try to look objectively at it. Not judging yourself, just thinking about the situation. Are there common themes, places, people involved when you get triggered? Very likely. Look for those. It could be a type of person. One for me that I'm still working on is people that are really selfish or self entitled. And where that is negative, sometimes I have a slightly disproportional reaction when I feel someone's being selfish or greedy. So that's still a small trigger for me. Also, try to notice your shadow can get triggered from certain places. If just a simple place seems to bring up emotion in you. For me, one of my prior places I worked was really negative, really toxic, really abusive. And after I didn't work there anymore, I still never wanted to go. And when someone would talk me into it, I could feel the emotion all through my body. So that was definitely an emotional trigger from a shadow I had in my subconscious. So this was the first way to notice your shadows. We want to notice and pay attention to our triggers. So the second way to notice your shadows when you're doing shadow work is to try to recognize patterns. Obviously, we're talking about negative patterns that do not serve you. You're going to see them in relationships, habits, and reactions that you have. Now, if you're looking for these patterns and you're trying to find your shadow, one thing to ask is, do you keep repeating certain patterns in your relationship or your reactions to things? You may know someone like this, or if you're honest, it may be you. We all know that person that's always the center of the drama. Somebody always has a problem with them. That's a big indicator that they have a shadow and their shadow is running their life. There's a lot of conflicts going on in their subconscious. Also, like relationships. Are you repeating the same relationship? Are the same problems showing up in your relationships? Are you with bad people that are treating you poorly, or are you taking it out on somebody else and you see that pattern repeating? That is certainly a shadow emerging and taking control of your life. So, this is the second way to spot your shadow, recognizing patterns in your life. The third way to spot your shadows when you're trying to do shadow work is understanding your projections. Now, this is very powerful. Projections can be good or bad. You can think somebody's so amazing and great, and the good news is you're probably projecting some of your own gold that's inside of you onto that person. But obviously, we're talking about the negative things that you'll project onto others. I like the sentence in the book. It says, when we have a strong emotional reaction to someone else's behavior or qualities, it often signifies a disowned part of ourselves, aka a shadow. So, a general rule that I go by, which isn't perfect but very powerful, when I'm really annoyed or very judgmental about somebody out in the world, I found that there's about a 99% chance that I'm projecting something of myself onto those other people. Again, it's in the dark of your subconscious mind, so it's not going to be obvious. You really got to pay attention to when you're really irritated or judging people. One example I like to give is I had a family member who really bothered me, and I noticed that they were always giving a lot of advice to people on things that they weren't doing themselves. And I thought it was obvious. I was irritated because they were a hypocrite. And then one day, my better half called me out. I told her that she should reframe a negative situation, just giving advice. And she was really annoyed and offended. And I'm glad that she was honest with me. And this was a moment that changed my brain forever. She looked at me and she said, "Why would I take your advice and reframe when you never do it? You're always negative about everything." This was years ago, granted. And it really struck me. And later I made the connection that I was frustrated with that hypocritical family member because I currently was in a state where I was a hypocrite, giving advice that I wouldn't take. And I secretly hated that part about myself. So that's when you disown a shadow, you will often find what you don't like in other people and you will project onto it. So that's number 3 on figuring out your shadows is understanding your projections. It is a super tool to find your shadows by noticing them and other people that you judge and that trigger you. Number 4 on figuring out your shadows is paying attention to your dreams. Dreams are very powerful, and I suggest you keep a little notebook with a pen next to your bed, and if you can wake up and write it down so you don't forget it, it's very powerful. But I won't be a hypocrite on this one. I do not recall hardly any of my dreams, so I can only pass this info on for you. I can't tell you that it works for me. But there are tons of anecdotes that this is powerful. But it does make sense. When you sleep, when you meditate, when you go into theta brainwaves, your subconscious mind tends to open up. So it makes sense that a lot of ideas and secrets from your subconscious would come out at this time. So obviously, most of dreams are going to seem like gobbledygook, but some real information is trying to come out. Unfortunately, grandma might just be turned into a groundhog, or all your fears might just be some crazy guillotine. And yeah, you might have to sort it out, but there is valuable information from your subconscious mind trying to come out. So that's why number 4 of figuring out your shadow and doing shadow work is paying attention to your dreams. Number 5 of figuring out your shadows for doing shadow work is exploring your childhood and your past experiences. We are everything that ever made us, so this may seem obvious. But I have worked with several clients, and just after a couple weeks of talking about and breaking down early childhood experiences, the connections between their parents' behavior and how their parents treated them became so obvious it was even undeniable to them. We really are everything we've ever seen and ever heard, even our parents' shadows, bad behaviors, and coping mechanisms. This is where coaching and counseling can come in really handy. As I said, the people that I coach and counsel, just giving them a new angle to see it from, like the sentence, "You can't see the forest through the trees." You're living in your life. You're surrounded by all the trees, so you don't even know you're in a forest. I'm standing outside of it at another angle. So when you explain your relationships with your parents and some of the tough things you went through as a child, I have a totally different view and I can put a spotlight on that for you. And once you see it from a new angle, it can change the way you think completely. It's really exciting. And a bonus tip that I'll give you on this one is journaling. But not just any journaling. You want to dig deep and look through your childhood. A program that I recommend is Jordan Peterson's Past Authoring. I wish there was an affiliate link for you to get it, but he doesn't offer one. I used it. I can't recommend it enough. It lets you go through your entire life, journal out all the biggest, most impactful points, and once you see it out in the open, it can be very, very impactful for you. So in summary, these were the 5 ways that you can spot your shadow in your subconscious mind when you're trying to do shadow work and fix your brain. 1 was noticing your triggers. 2 was recognizing patterns that are hurting you in your life. 3 is understanding your projections onto other people, places, and things. 4 was pay attention to your dreams. They may seem scrambled, but there's real information in them. And 5, last but certainly not least, explore your childhood and your past experiences. We are everything that ever happened to us, and there's so much gold there I cannot tell you. I hope this was helpful. We will continue on with this series. This was all pre-work so that we learn what shadow work is. The actual shadow work looks like it's coming soon in the next couple of pages. So if you find this series valuable, please subscribe. And until next time, this is Matt from Mental Health Matters, signing out.